Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Lord of the Rings adventure card game. So we have the Unsettled Bones Quest 3 to do today. Sticking with the deck that I looked up online. And hopefully everything stays pretty easy. The first two quests of this campaign were pretty easy, and hopefully we just don't go down the path of it getting more and more difficult and taking more and more tries. We want this to all just go quickly.
She had been forced by necessity to work through agents and was careful to only men like us departs. Still, she could not trust the selfish forces might stir her plan to rule. She had instructed the agents to employ the barrow down secret. They could look what they wished. They were to recover specific items, artifacts that would aid her master to return to power in the north. Combined, they would provide an ancient curse that present to her master as a symbol of her dying service, and perhaps more. She pushed that thought aside and stood further back the outcrop hidden from the light. Even though steady rain fell from an overcast sky, she instinctively preferred the shade. Her agents had failed by letting the items slip through their fingers. They must be recovered. She readied a note summoned to carry forth.
So, we pretty much were given confirmation that these stories have to be either very modified or totally made up from the Lord of the Rings books and the Hobbit book, because in the last quest there was potentially 4 different murderers, and you can't write a story where there was potentially 4 different murderers unless the story was written that all 4 of them were murderers and then you changed it so only one of them was a murderer. Noticeably, I lean heavily to believing this is also just all new story too, in that we have an actual female character at all. It's not even really a case that there are a few secondary characters or third characters that are female in Lord of the Rings and Hobbits. There's basically no females at all. And then at a certain point, I guess there is a question: did Tolkien have a very specific preference or just a mass amount of sexism in him that he basically writes one important female character, like one of the elf ladies, and that's it? Otherwise, it is just men at war. But then again, that may very well have been Tolkien's experience, and that is a very British experience too, is that for that time frame that Tolkien would have been alive, men would have been used to going off to war in World War I and World War II and spending the majority of their youth only with men. They often, British people, sent to boarding schools, like gender segregated boarding schools. So yeah, you may have some wife, but that wife may literally spend a extremely minimal amount of time in interacting with you. By modern standards, it comes off incredibly awkward and weird, though. You might as well have just read it into the world of Middle-earth to say that all the females died off of some disease, and there's some kind of magic that was being used by some wizard, created some magic to create new humans and new goblins and new orcs. The only prominent female character we've even seen in this game has been the female spider, and that's it.
With the unearthing of the letter in Bill Fernie's house,
I guess they tried to address that with the female narrator. It doesn't really accomplish that goal.
Another night in Bree, reasoning that entering the barrow down is best done in daylight hours. After a hearty breakfast, you head towards the seldom trail leading directly into the Barrow Downs, and must use skill to follow a recent set of tracks that you reason might be mysterious V from the letter. As you pass into the Barrow Downs, just a few hours later, you feel a damp chill rise in the air, like a cold, heavy blanket being laid upon you. Sounds seem not to carry, as you hear only your own voices and footfalls. Yet even these cut off sharply, as if you were in a small room rather than an open wild. The low flat hills loom large, shrouded by the close mist. You hold your tighter against the cold, though you suspect it comes from within rather than from without. Suddenly there are cries in the
Third paragraph.
Unmistakable sounds of men in terror. With a glance between you and your companions, you decide to follow the sounds. Someone is in trouble, and in this place, you feel duty bound to answer the call. You increase your speed, though careful not to take a reckless to avoid stumbling over an unseen stone or moving headlong ambush. You step into a clearing where the mists lighten to find a battered and recently abandoned camp. Tents are torn and items scattered. A campfire still burns, and a few men lie dead, their eyes fixed in horror. Within the mist, you make out shapes darting the edge of the camp, running about clearly in fright. More still fend off unseen figures that harry them, while still others simply cower. A pale man emerges from the mist and points at your party, his eyes glazed over.
More of them over here!
He shouts.
Fit them off!
More men emerge, brandishing weapons and attack.
So I assume these are the bad guys. We never really get a good description of who we are, or who the protagonists are in any of these stories.
It would be the death of you to come with me.
And this time it seems like we're going to be attacked by possibly good guys in a case of mistaken identity. Looks like we can discard every bandit, gain one reformed bandit for each bandit discarded. Limit is available only hand side location specific. So we could get a whole bunch of reformed bandits, which is an option. But these are grave robbers, not bandits. We need to defeat every enemy or resolve grave robbers camp and defeat one random bandit, summon one random undead. Flaming brand is plus attack and plus plus power when attacking an undead or engaging a hazard. Interesting, so we're going to be fighting undead now. Grant 1 to every wounded character, grant 2 health to every wounded character. Another flaming brand. Reduce threat. Another flaming brand. Another flaming brand. So it seems to me like they want us to give everything a flaming brand, which maybe will make our strategy a little bit stupid. So when I play this, it steals one. It takes one away from Sauron. It doesn't steal it. It's -1 to Sauron. But then it costs 1, so it often looks like you're taking one from both sides when you really aren't. Okay. 5, 6, 7. And nothing dies this turn, so
Come on, again.
let's just resolve and move fast on the first turn.
Stay back!
Before I do that, let's go ahead and play this.
Ease your troubles.
Didn't do that.
Go alone!
And we'll just travel. So we engage with none of that, which is probably a mistake.
Should have been pleased. Valen returned from
But
Greece
you
and
kind of
Arthur
need to
Arthur
learn
Arthur
each of these
as his
sections
men of the
first,
artifact,
in case it is difficult and you need to play a second time.
Denwyn relished facing her fate. If he failed, since he wanted to bear her wrath, not Valen or that Fernie, from whom he had kept her secret. Then no sooner had he sent Valen to deliver the artifacts to her, when a new threat emerged. Arroweth had given specific instructions to avoid certain mounds, but he had to disobey the last item list. It was in the barrow of some ancient prince or other. After Valen left, the barrow down cold and fog thicker. They heard strange singing, but could not make out the words. Denwyn's men began to disappear, emerging soon after something else, something not living. A host of things attacked his camp, and Denwyn fled the barrow down, wondering to see another morning.
So the Barrow Downs apparently is like an ancient gravesite, and they're stealing things, but some of the gravesites apparently are cursed. We have gone very far from the last quest, which was a murder mystery. Now we are being told a ghost story. And yeah, to just be so different for each quest to be its own style of narrative is weird. If anything, you would probably want to do something like this in the tutorial section, or at least in the first quest, to make an almost false promise that the Lord of the Rings adventure card game could be more than just an adventure card game. It doesn't really make sense, though, to call a murder mystery or a theft mystery or a ghost story an adventure also.
Your fellowship makes its way cautiously through the fog, looking for grave robbers or more of the things you saw at the camp. You decide that the best course is to avoid direct conflict if you can, sneaking past any potential enemies. The fog grows ever darker as the day stretches on. You're wondering how you'll find your way in fog darkness at nightfall when you step into an area recently cleared by shovels and picks. You hear soft, menacing whispers in the distance, as well as hisses that you're sure mark the passing of more of those things that inhabit the long dead princes and kings of Arnor. One of your party steps upon a twig, a sickening snap filling the air. You all take a collective breath, listening intently for a reaction that never comes. You make out a strange singing, voices whispering, or but nothing approaches. You need more caution if you are to proceed.
So this is they dug too deep. And really, if all of this is supposedly like set up for the story of the Lord of the Rings, and all of these stories are just happening between the events of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, I'm not really sure. It seems like it's just way too much overall. We still have the ability to do flaming brands if we want to. Otherwise, we're just supposed to resolve every hazard. Cannot reduce threat. Add a curse to a player's deck when revenge, or summon 0 to 2 cadavers. So basically, it seems like the move here is to get rid of this one first, because we probably don't want our threats to go up every time. Store 1 health to a hobbit when you achieve something. They seem to be enjoying targeting that character. Next would be grant 1 resource to Sauron. Then the next one would be, I assume, just reduce card draw.
Come on, again.
And I feel like, almost certainly, what's going to happen here is we're going to end up rushing through all of this and then realize that the final encounter is way more dangerous. Heal every hobbit for 4. Put another block on the field. Let's do that. Then we get this ledger. I'm not even going to pretend like I can read that. Pause now, I guess, if you want to read it. Is now really the time to potentially play Gandalf? I don't think so. Put that on the field. And then let's heal. And then let's put this guy in defense mode. And let's go ahead and put this guy in defense mode. And put this in defense mode. And then travel.
You find the broken entrance to one of the larger barrows, topped by standing stones. A voice beckons from inside. Try as you might, you cannot resist the call and enter, only to find the place of shambles. Treasures that were once carefully laid in this tomb are strewn about haphazardly. The work of shovels and picks scattered equal abandon. The robbers have been here and were none too careful in their work. A voice whispers, restore. Though whether it's a request or a command, you're not sure. There are three stone piles once set in specific place about the place now scattered. You feel compelled to put them back in their proper order and step forward when a groan fills the air. What had once been a robber stands in the back of the chamber, his eyes rolled up and his skin pale as milk. He wears a belt with the letter D engraved prominently on the buckle. The creature howls, his fingers bent like claws as he rushes forward, teeth snapping.
Earlier in this series, I mentioned that it was kind of weird that the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit story doesn't really seem like it has skeletons, zombies, magical creatures like that, vampires. Now it seems like, at least in this story, they are introducing the idea of ghouls and shades. And previously we had seen shades also thrown, and necromancy is talked about. But weirdly, my feeling is that if you had just read The Lord of the Rings or just watched the movies, you would assume that it's just all goblins and orcs, and no other kind of magical creatures even exist in Middle-earth. The story is moving fast, but I don't feel like it's going really anywhere. Gain 1 dagger of westernness. +2 attack when you're attacking a villain. And ambush. That's probably not a terrible one to go for. We're supposed to restore every Karen. Whatever a Karen is, it looks like it's a pile of stones. Meanwhile, we have a unique villain, and then this guy with block, and this guy with revenge. Okay. Draw 3 cards, reduce 3 or do 3 damage. If I play Gandalf right now, Now weirdly, I think the move is to do this, and then do this. This would exhaust a minion, so I could use the power to exhaust a character. Sure, let's do that. Although I should have attacked first, come to think of it. Okay. So we attack with that one. Then we attack with that one.
Way up, or I'll skin you.
A stinge in the air. Stirring in the air. Then we'll attack with this one. And then we'll attack with... No, now this guy has a guard, so none of these have anything we can do. Guess best case scenario is to probably attack with that. And then clear with that. Store some health here. Go ahead and kill that.
I'll skin you.
And restore some health here. So this is setting us up somewhat nicely for the next, and I assume final round. Ambush +2 when attacking a villain. Well, I guess empower this guy.
My adventure ends here.
Go ahead and put this in a block position. Go ahead and heal that guy. Okay, do 3 there. Do 2 there. Let's go ahead and put this in defense mode. So that can heal itself. And then we'll kill that. So the Karens are now restored. We now gain Tom Bombadil. Pause now if you want to read this. So now we have to defeat this prince. But this will defeat one minion as soon as I play this next turn. Although, in all fairness, it would probably be smarter to play this Gandalf if I can. Go ahead and heal that. It seems like you don't have to really deal with that one. So. It's lost one random hair per hero. Alright, so we have 3. Let's see, I guess you still want that in defense mode. He just doesn't want to attack now. Okay. Attack with that. Do I have any reason to put this in defense mode? Not really. But I can attack something with block. And putting this in guard mode twice doesn't change anything, so just end the phase. But we've got to beat this guy, which means we need some heavy hitters besides this one character, who is the only character that does more than 1 damage, which would be 0 damage. I need to not play anything, basically. We can throw this out, and that's pretty much the only move. I'm now I basically need to do this, I guess. And put this in defense mode. And I guess put this in defense mode. And then I guess maybe put this in defense mode. At which point you really have no other options. So we've definitely rushed to get to this point. Whereas it's kind of obvious now. I shouldn't have rushed. And I just cannot do anything. Now that all these characters are powered up and stronger, in particular. And there's never going to be a point where you just end the turn and then Sauron is just going to take pity on you and not attack. There goes one hero. We're about to lose another hero. Every threat gain is doubled for this quest now, which means I'll probably run and lose just around that idea. Okay. So I'm probably going to lose, but let's bring out this guy and see if that does anything particularly interesting.
I'm back.
And you can kill things, certainly. That proved to be absolutely useless. But yeah, almost certainly just gonna lose here. If not this turn, the next. And this guy's stopping me from getting fate things. I'm realizing. Nothing would work here at all. At this point, like, because this guy has block, because this guy only has one attack, attacking him will never do any damage to him. There aren't enough items out there to potentially increase this guy's attack. And even if I could get it up to 2, which is the best bet, you would lose pretty handily. So is there any reason to even reset progress here? Or continue and try again?
You find
Let's just
the broken entrance to...
just think about what we what happened before.
I'm coming with you.
Hope in the darkness might be useful. The weapon +2 fighting might be useful, but I think for the most part your goal has got to be to have enough resources to bring out Gandalf when we need him. I think the move here is probably to clear the field. And we'll be somewhat cautious on protecting our characters. Protecting our hero characters. I feel like you probably should just play a Gandalf here. Deal 3 damage to this, which does only 2 damage. We have a massive amount of resources, so let's just activate this. Yeah, that seems like that worked out very nicely. And while we're at it, let's just take that resource too.
Come on, let's take it again.
Yeah, if anything, that feels like that is fixed some real problems here. Restore health on nothing, I guess, because everything is healed. Okay. This one has 0 attack, so it's not a terrible thought to attack with that one. Well, no, actually it would have been better to attack with that one. Okay, whatever. Let's take this flaming band and we'll put this in defense mode first. Then we'll give this so it has guard when it vanquishes. And then we'll give this a flaming band. I guess put that in guard mode. Heal this guy. And then attack with this. Heal this guy. Let's see. Immeladris, Mistral, Watchman. Are all minions unnamed unless they're unique? I guess that's the way that goes. I was about to say it's a little weird that you have a female minion here and it doesn't have a name, but that does seem to be about the case with most minions unless they are a unique card. And in all fairness, a lot of them are unique cards. Right. Okay. Do I want to attack or do I want to be in a guard mode? I think I want to do that. Then I think I probably want to do this. Maybe that was a little premature. And then I'll go ahead and just use these resources. You can't do anything. That should have given me 2 fate power things, and it didn't even give me that much. Should I wait for Gandalf, or should I throw out another character? I feel like throwing out another character might be the right move. And then throw out another character. Alright, just go ahead and kill that. I may have played a little bit out of order there. I think we've got this full though, so obviously just attack with that first. Then attack with this next. Then I guess we'll attack with this next. And weirdly, this has brought out the Prince of Caldron. Ambush 2 power per player before attacking. If fate meter is at 0, minus 2 power, plus 1 attack, and gains stalwart. How in the world am I supposed to defeat this though? That seems unfair. He has no health. Oh, he's subtracting from his power, willpower. Seems like that might be the case. Now the good news here is it seems like he doesn't have anything that doesn't have anything that reduces my fate, so well, when he attacks he reduces my fate. Alright, well, I think we can figure this out. We aren't going to be in the best position here when all is said and done. We're basically going to have our 3 heroes at best. Well, I guess it didn't matter. I didn't realize that was the final encounter.
Resonates through the chamber once more. A voice whispers as if from a great distance. You do not understand if this is a request or simply that whatever haunted this place has been placated. You and your party stand at the center of the chamber, having fended off the spirits within this place and defeated the creature that was Denwyn. The cold weight you felt since entering the Barrow Downs is lifted, and you can breathe easily again. The immediate task complete. You resolve to continue along the trail which leads north to the ruin of Durain, or simply Fornost. And now dead man died in the Brelands. The Witch King of Ang had conquered this great city of Arnor, then lost in turn when he was expelled from these lands. It remains today as the haunt only of the rain visit from time to time, and also some say by ghosts and others who hide amid scattered stones.
So the game, while we were doing the last fight, was making a blobbing sound, and that blobbing sound effect is still playing as they're reading the paragraph here. So yeah, I was a little surprised that was the final encounter. That means that while we did have to retry a second time, this really wasn't that difficult. Maybe it's getting a little bit more difficult, but there is potentially that chance that the next quest will be extremely difficult if it's anything like the last campaign.
Arwethel paced impatiently. She waited for her agents. She wanted to rush to the Barrow to take its direct hand, but she dared not. Revealing her presence, set us master, and draw the wrath of their lord. Soon he had told her, the time to reveal themselves would come. But that time is not yet. There was work for her in the city, and only by her force of will the assembly kept in check. All she could do for the time was to remain informed and await the word that the artifacts had covered. She had not taken a meal in time to felt the sensation of hunger growing within. She had felt it more and more late, and would need to take sustenance soon. Suddenly, one of her servants appeared before her, kneel, bowing his head and keeping gaze at her feet. The artifacts had been recovered, and he had brought them to her directly. She would eat, she decided, and then her true task began.
There's this weirdness in the writing that they always mention meals. I've seen this once before, and it just seems to kind of come out of nowhere, as if Tolkien just mentioned meals whenever he felt hungry, or as some weird side thing, whereas bathing or going to the bathroom is not mentioned at all so far in these stories. And honestly, I don't even think just mentioning whether you're hungry or not is a valid way to emulate Tolkien's writing, assuming that these paragraphs are actually not written by Tolkien in reality. Because I feel like Tolkien spent paragraphs and paragraphs describing meals and food, and it was more of a almost gluttonous foodie style of writing, describing each bread and meat and the way it's arranged and the way it's cooked. I don't think he just said, oh, this person's hungry. It seems like they're playing more on the meme of what about second breakfast than a real line of dialogue or a real general way in which food is mentioned. It does potentially lean back to the theory that Tolkien very much was in a mentality of military lifestyle, in which there is only eating, sleeping, and training/fighting, and the schedules around those are often either highly regulated or very random, depending on whether or not you're in actual active duty, active combat. Doesn't seem like we're going to get any more description of who this character is, though. Notice how it jumped back to the game screen for a frame or two there. before loading in this. That's another visual glitch. You can't really complain too much about visual glitches, but it does show that there's kind of a lack of polish on this game. So we've unlocked 2 copies of a weapon card, which might be somewhat useful. We probably have hit the point where if I took the deck I had now and just made a few tweaks, it might be a little bit better, but then it might also be a lot worse. We are seemingly hitting quests that do challenge the player a little bit more to be focused around using and having fate points, whereas the first half of all the campaigns, the first campaign and half of the second campaign, pretty much you didn't even have to engage with fate or power at all. It is just a basic attack deck, works pretty well. So as these side challenges, complete the quest with every hero at 50% more health, we did that. Complete the quest without ever exceeding 40 threat, we did that. Complete the quest with the fate meter at less than half full, we did not do that. And then in the abandoned camp, avoid having any bandit units become undead, we did that. And then we did not use Flaming Brand 10 times to resolve a hazard or defeat an undead, which would have, to do that you would have had to have gotten a Flaming Brand early and played quite a bit more. And then we get our 1500 fellowship points for 3 new characters, 3 new heroes. We are right on the cusp of having 50,000. We need, I think, somewhere around 200,000 to unlock every card in the game, which pretty much just highlights that you would have to play a lot of this single player content, more than just 3 victories for each single player content. You would have to do even more than that. And the biggest failure really with this game is the fact that the campaign rewards don't give you like 10 or 20 or 50,000 fellowship points. So yeah, next time we'll do Road's End, which probably isn't going to be mystical and a ghost story, if I was to guess. I guess overarching wise, there is a bit of a mystery going on as far as who is the bad guy and what the deal with the artifacts, which we've pretty much forgotten about at this point. But I wouldn't be surprised if we have a different kind of story told for Road's End. And there's, again, nothing really to be hyped about. We don't know what the rewards are. This description isn't an amazing description that really pulls me in, makes me want to play more. Any of the other motivating factors are just poorly designed. So nothing has pulled me into the idea of wanting to come down here and craft more cards, or unlock cards and craft new decks, or purchase avatars, or frames for your name. We should be getting at least 1 pre-built deck at the end of each campaign. That would make a lot of sense. As the single player story continues to go on, we're seeing more and more one-use characters. I suppose it is a case that if we were playing a random game, these one-use characters might show up a little bit more, but they may not. I wouldn't be surprised if Stone Karen 1, 2, and 3 literally only shows up in that one quest and can't be spawned in any other kind of random encounter, and so they've wasted what little artistic energy was spent to make the Karens. let's see, single player narrative, single player adventure, single player challenge, multiplayer narrative, multiplayer challenge. So they've done this in such a way that there are different attacks, values, and these will show up in other kinds of gameplay. But yeah, a single player quick play with random skirmishes. We should probably try that once at the end of this series, but it's probably going to be very wild and have no story around it, which the only good part of this game, I would say, is the story. The cards are not particularly uniquely designed or well designed. The art on the cards isn't interesting to me, at least. The effects on the cards are simplistic. This hardly feels like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic the Gathering as far as the complexity is, as far as the card text goes. So, and the slight differences in how the card game plays doesn't do anything particularly unique. What you could have done is you could have had like a one ring card in solo mode, and at any point in the deck you summon, if you draw the one ring card, you can play it, and that does something amazing and changes the game drastically, or just even instant wins the game. Yeah, I guess if you were making a card game that would have been more like a collectible card game, there you would have potentially two people fighting over finding the one ring, two potential hero humanoid type characters fighting over the ring, and whoever draws it first wins. Or then you could have a quicker victory, an instant win scenario, which would be fairly random. You could potentially, instead of having the one ring card, you could have had the other rings and try and win the 12 other rings, or however many there were, and whoever gets the most rings that way, yeah, that could work pretty well too. You could have a nice circular board instead of a square board, and on the edge of the board there could be like one ring for each of the different races, and then you could have different win conditions to win rings for the different races, and so there could be 4 or 5 different ways you could build a deck and play to try and get rings for those different races, and then maybe collecting or drawing the one ring ends the game, and whoever has the most rings wins. In a board like that, you probably have 4 people playing all against each other, which would be different. You could also probably integrate some kind of mileage walking element to a card game. There's a lot of traveling that happens in the Lord of the Rings story and the Hobbit story, so trying to represent that either by playing cards that moves you further from one location to another, or rolling a dice each turn to add towards a total distance traveled, those kinds of ideas could change things a little bit too. But yeah, the card game, Lord of the Rings adventure card game, as it's shown in this digital format, which is different from even the physical format, I've learned, slightly different. It's not really doing much of anything. Anyways, I don't want to ramble on too much. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to support me further, there's some links down below in the description box. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.